think Ohio State is going to fire Ryan Day. And I don't think Ohio State should fire Ryan Day. And I'm going to lay out my case for why I think that. First, let's start with why they won't fire Ryan Day. He has a $37 million buyout. That's the biggest reason why he won't be fired. You're not going to find the booster support to buy out a coach with a $37 million buyout at Ohio State. There's just not an appetite for being involved in that race with schools throughout the country. Ohio State's just not going to find an interest in competing with the Texas A&Ms of the world of thumping their chest about how much money they have put into a buyout for a college football coach. It's just not going to happen. And Ohio State, and I think justifiably so, and are on the right side of this, has decided that, hey, our boosters, our NIL backers are going to put our efforts into NIL. And so when you have the, famous $20 million roster, they're not going, that shows the priority that NIL has taken at a place like Ohio State. It shows that the efforts have been put into procuring the best players. And so when that is your thought process, when that's your priority, when those are the things that you want to get accomplished, you're not going to divert that money to buy out Ryan Day. It's just not going to happen. I don't think the appetite is going to be there. The appetite might be there from the boosters that say, hey, losing to Michigan is unacceptable. We cannot continue this. But the money to buy out Ryan Day's contract is not going to be there. Plus, then whoever you hire after that is going to require a pretty sizable paycheck. I just don't think it's there, especially with, you know, having to pay the players in 2025. All of those things grouped together make it financially not an easy thing for Ohio State to do. So that's why Ryan Day won't be fired. And I understand the angst, the frustration, the anger from the fan base. Um, Basically, every big game in the last several, Ohio State has not won. I get that, but financially, it doesn't make sense. And I've on the record, I will say it till the day I die. College football is a business masquerading as a sport. And when you are looking at staring a $37 million expense on top of probably $10 million a year for your next head coach, if it doesn't financially make sense, probably not going to happen. So Ohio State's not going to fire Ryan Day. And I don't even know if the appetite inside the athletic department, whether the people who make the actual decisions on who stays and who goes, if they believe that Ryan Day deserves to be fired. I understand that the fan base does. I understand that the probably overwhelming majority of the fan base believes Ryan Day should be fired. I believe that there's about a 0.1% chance that it happens in 2024. Ryan Day is going to be the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes in 2025. I don't think that's even with a shadow of a doubt. He's going to be the head coach. So that's why he won't be fired. Here's my opinion on why he shouldn't be fired. If your argument for Ryan Day being fired hinges on the fact that you've been too close to the mountaintop without getting to the summit, doesn't logic tell you that it's probably a pretty high probability that he gets to the summit? Because that's the biggest argument is we've been close but not good enough. Now, nobody wants to hear this. Ryan Day has coached in the national championship game. So the argument that he doesn't win big games, I think is a moot point. He's beat Michigan as the head coach of Ohio State. Now, I know the immediate reaction is, well, yeah, that was with Urban Meyer's players. Ryan Day was an assistant. Do you understand that, like, assistants are much more involved in recruiting than head coaches are? So those players that Ryan Day beat Michigan with are just as much Ryan Day's players as they were Urban Meyer's players. That's a crap argument. So he's beaten Michigan. He's won the Big Ten championship. He's coached in the national championship game. If you think about it, Ohio State is a bad hold against Georgia away from winning a national championship under Ryan Day. They are a bad reversed call against Clemson from playing for another national championship game. They are 2 plays away from appearing in 3 national championship games under Ryan Day. And let's be honest, if it was Ohio State versus TCU instead of Georgia versus TCU, the result is probably pretty similar to this. I mean, I don't know that it's 65-7, but Ohio State wins the national championship if they're a bad hold away from beating Georgia. So your argument is, and I understand the argument that you've lost 4 straight times to Michigan, and especially this year when it's an easy thought process to have of if he can't beat 6-5 Michigan, when is he going to beat Michigan? But my rebuttal to that would be Ohio State fans have just watched this exact same thing happen to their biggest rival. Michigan was just in this exact same situation. Not an exaggeration. Literally, we're just in the exact same situation with Jim Harbaugh, where Michigan had lost 8 in a row against Ohio State. And it felt as if it was a marriage of convenience rather than a marriage of want, a marriage of necessity. That Michigan was hanging on to Jim Harbaugh because, and I think this is the argument Ohio State fans have to answer. If you say, I want to fire Ryan Day, who are you going to get that's better? Who are you going to get that is an improvement? Who are you going to get that you know definitively is going to do a better job at Ohio State than Ryan Day? Because the answer to that is nobody. I know that there's a large portion of the fan base that says he doesn't understand the rivalry. Ohio State needs to have a coach from Ohio who understands the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. Who is that? Mike Vrabel? If you think that the head coach of Ohio State needs to be a CEO, Mike Vrabel is not the answer. Maybe Matt Campbell. Is Matt Campbell going to leave Iowa State for Ohio State? I don't know. He's had options before in the past and hasn't done it. He just led Iowa State to their first 10-win season in school history. The options that fit the criteria that the fan base expects aren't aplenty. If you think that the person leading the program needs to be a CEO, I don't have any idea how you can argue that Mike Vrabel is that person. He has extremely limited college coaching experience when it is now, you could argue, as difficult as ever to recruit. Do you see Mike Vrabel kissing boosters' ass to get NIL money? Because I don't. But Ohio State just watched their biggest rival go through this exact same situation where your chief rival can't win the one game you're supposed to win every year. And they were close, but not good enough, time after time after time. And you know what? Jim Harbaugh figured it out. Michigan figured it out. I know that the immediate response is, yeah, but they were cheating. Okay. They got caught cheating halfway through last season. And you know what? They went on to win the national championship. Probably cleanly. It wasn't a fluke. They figured it out. And so when you've just seen that happen up close, when you've just seen the program lose 8 in a row to Ohio State, and Ohio State fans were in the same boat that Michigan fans were in now, like, hell yeah, sign an extension for Jim Harbaugh. We want him to continue to be the coach at Michigan. And Michigan fans today are saying, I hope Ryan Day stays at Ohio State for 15 more years. When you've just seen your rival go exactly through that and then figure it out and reach the mountaintop, I don't know that I would be so quick to want that trigger pulled, because if your argument is he's gotten so close and yet hasn't gotten over the hump, I don't know how you don't think that at some point you're gonna get over the hump. Clemson went through the same thing. Hell, we used to call it Clemsoning. We used to point out and laugh at Clemson that they would lose to teams that they shouldn't to year after year after year after year. And you know what? They figured it out. It just feels to me as if, and this might be a bad analogy, if you hired somebody to do a job that, like, you know what, you're supposed to be successful in this job. You can do all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, I need you to run an a mile in under 8 minutes. And that's really difficult to do. Not many other people can do that. Again, suspend reality just for a moment for the analogy. I need you to run a mile in under 8 minutes. And that person continually hit 8:10. And they were getting closer. Or, you know, something happened that impeded their run time after time after time. Or you found out that somebody else was cheating while they were supposed to run their 8-minute mile. It feels to me inevitable that Ohio State gets over the hump with Ryan Day. That Ohio State at some point beats Michigan, wins the national championship. They're not out of the national championship conversation right now for 2024. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that they can go win the national championship in 2024. So just feel like I understand the despair. I understand the anger and the frustration and the God, are we ever going to beat these guys? I wholly understand it. I really, honestly, truly do. But I think you got to take a step back and have a sensible, rational conversation about it. If being good enough, but not great enough to win the national championship every year or beat your biggest rival, I don't see how that is warranted for somebody to lose their job. I was frank. I hate fire the coach radio. I hate because it's such an easy cliche. It takes no talent. It takes no thought process whatsoever to just that guy needs fired. I don't. I think if the world were simply black and white, yes, you can do that. But it's not. There's an awful lot of shades of gray. And so I don't think Ryan Day will be fired, and I don't think Ryan Day should be fired. And I recognize that that probably puts you in a minority of a lot of people's thought process. It's Sunday, and maybe the most important Sunday of the Sunday Stiff Arm Trophy update. Take a look at what my Heisman Trophy ballot would look like if it was due today. Now, I don't have a Heisman Trophy ballot. I'd like one, but I don't have one. But this is how I would vote if my ballot was due today. I would still have Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty as my winner. And I know that that might be, I know that that's in the minority. I know that Travis Hunter is going to win the Heisman Trophy. But I think Ashton Jeanty has been the best player in college football. Travis Hunter has been very good and had a spectacular closing argument in the big time win over Oklahoma State. Deserves a ton of credit for the job that he has done in 2024, but I would have him second. And Cam Ward is third. Cam Ward didn't have the world's greatest Saturday, but you know what? The U is not even in the playoff conversation without Cam Ward. And I think that's a pretty heavy lift. And so I think he deserves the third spot and a spot in New York. I want to know your comments. Do you think Ryan Day should be fired? Do you think Ryan Day will be fired? Let me know in the comments down below, and we'll have that conversation. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.